Alright, now that we're done with the unboxing and inspection of the hardware, it's time to assemble our ER20 Eryone. So the first step is we're going to put our lead screws in and get the gantry frame up. Alright, so carefully, very carefully, open this up. Take these out of the packaging. Do not run the blades on the lead screws. You don't want the threads to be damaged. You want to be very careful with that, because that's going to give you unnecessary issues if the threads get shredded. So be very, very careful, and don't cut yourself. That's always a good thing when we don't cut ourselves. Okay. Don't try to pull this apart because you might end up bending the rods. We don't want that either. So just take your time. Nice and easy. Alright. So it does not look like these rods are lubricated because I can't really feel any lube on them. So I guess once we install them, we're gonna have to lube them. So that's one more thing you probably want to get already if you haven't. Get some kind of a dry PTFE synthetic lubricant, not just any lubricant. I think a good one is Super Lube with some dry PTFE, and less is more. Always remember that. So these are gonna go in here like that on either side. These are the Z-lead screws. Before we do this, we gotta thread them through these full color brass nuts. But before that, we gotta make sure that the stepper motor grub screws is nice and tight, and also make sure that the stepper shaft is not coming way inside the coupler, because what happens is when the Z-lead screw goes in, you don't want the bottom of the Z-lead screw to be touching the stepper motor shaft, because that's gonna make it wobble, and you don't want that. So make sure that you can see that there's like the shaft is like a little below in the coupler, about this below this halfway mark, because the bottom grub screw is for the shaft coupler, stepper shaft, and the top one is to, you know, grab onto the Z lead screw. So I'm just gonna check that super quick, and we're gonna tighten down the bottom grub screws so that the stepper shafts are nice and tight, okay? Alright, so I'm gonna make sure you guys can see this. Make sure this is nice and tight. Make sure that the shaft is a little down there, which is good. Do the same on the other side, because this printer has dual Z lead screws. Yeah, it's nice and tight, snug. This is a cool thing that these guys did. I think you guys can see this right here. These brackets, they're really nice. It gives you a lot of added support to keep the motor in place, and when we're gonna attach this with the Z gantries, it's gonna be, make sure these screws are tight. We don't want these screws to be loose, and they are tight. Okay. Alright, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna erect the gantries up the right way. Make sure the X gantry is facing you, that is the screen. And this is super cool, awesome feature. They have these slots built in where the gantries just slide in. This is awesome. It's beautiful. Well done, Eryone. Great job. This is super easy. Alright, so these are gonna sit like that, and then we're gonna thread our Z lead screws through these all color brass nuts. Alright, let's do this. Before that, these are kind of loose, so I'm just gonna tighten them down. We don't want to tighten these down too much. These are the only screws which are exception. You don't want to tighten these brass or color nuts too much because that's gonna bind the Z. So you want them a little loose. Yeah, a little wiggle in there, so when the Z is vibrating, it can freely do that, but not too much wiggle. This one is too much, so I'm just gonna tighten this down a little bit. So the rule of thumb is you just tighten them down really good and go one full turn back. Okay, just like that. So tighten them down and go one full turn back. Back it up. Tighten them down all the way and then go one full turn back. Tighten down all the way, then go one full turn back. And that's the right way to keep the right kind of tension in these brass O-collar nuts for the Z lead screws. Alright? Remove this. I know I didn't see it before. Be careful, because the minute you remove this, the X gantry is gonna fall, because we haven't threaded the Z lead screws yet. So let's do that first. Actually, I think it's gonna be easier if I thread in the Z lead screws first, and then mount the gantry. Yep. So let's do that. Super quick. Thread it in. Thread in the other one. Just hold them in place in between your fingers, like that, like that. And you want to hold on to that hot end as well. Whew. I know guys, that's a lot of juggling, but trust me, it's much less hassle than many other machines, trust me. Just seat them inside the couplers. Gently place your hot end down. Make sure your Z gantries are all the way in. Let me make sure that this Z coupler grub screw is loose, because otherwise it's going to cause problems. Right. All right. Looks good to me. It's all the way in. Yep. Looks good to me. Alright, now we're going to tighten down the Z lead screws in the couplers. Nice and tight. You don't want this to be moving. I don't want the Z lead screw to be moving, but there we go. check. X is moving up and down. Looks good. Just gonna yeah, feels right. Can remove this now. Okay, what you want to do next is you want to find these long screws. Okay, longest ones from the bag, which has installed screws. Okay, and then run these washers in, and you're gonna tighten down the Z gantries to the base. Before that, I'm gonna loosen up the screws for these brackets just so that they're not binding. You're gonna come back and tighten them down later. Man, those are really tight. We're gonna let them be. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take these other 4 screws and connect the brackets to our Z gantries. Alright? So we're not gonna tighten these down a lot. I hope you guys can see this. Get right there. Do not tighten these yet. Okay, keep them loose. Keep them loose. Again, don't tighten them down yet. Sorry, it's just the wrong angle for me because I'm a right-handed, so. But I want you guys to see as well what I'm doing, so sorry about that. It's just taking a little longer than it should. That's what happens when you're making a video. Half my attention is towards making the video for you guys. It's all good. Alright, so I'll just keep them loose. Right there, you can see that. And now we are gonna attach the gantries. Catch your hot end. Don't let it float or hit something. I'm gonna place something on this side to give me a little hand. Right. You guys can see this? Yep. I am gonna install these screws here. I want you guys to see this. You can use the edge of the table as well. If you think that's easier for you, kind of move the printer a little off the edge of the table and kind of go under that. That'll work as well. Just don't over tighten them yet. You're just gonna move the screws in all the way. You're not gonna tighten it down all the way though. I'm gonna do the other side now. Try and not kink any of those wires. All right. Guys, this is really fast assembly. It might look like it's not, but because I'm doing so many other different checks. But this is going really well and really fast. Much easier and faster than my Ender 3v2, which comes as a DIY kit in like complete pieces and horrible instructions. Don't over tighten it again. You know, keep it loose. All right, here we are. So even though everyone has done a tremendous job at making the assembly and very easy and making sure that everything assembles square with these brackets where the Z gantries go in, and the way these brackets for the Z stepper motors, how they connect and everything is super easy, super intuitive. I still like to check with my speed square to make sure that my gantries are square to the base, because that's absolutely critical. So I'm just gonna go ahead and check and make sure everything is square, and when I see that everything is square, we're gonna tighten down all of these screws which we just left a little loose. Okay. All right, look at that. It's perfectly square. Yup, I'm very happy. On the other side. It's perfectly square. Yep. Perfectly square on the other side as well. So at this point, we can go ahead and tighten down our gantries. Trust me guys, these checks, these little checks you make can potentially save you a ton of misery. A ton. Like a lot. Oops, sorry. Gotta be careful. Can't have the hot end rolling around and hitting stuff. Alright, just tighten down the other side quick. These we want really tight. You don't want these to be loose at all. Once you know where you want them, and they're there, you want to make sure that these are really tight. Now we want to tighten down these guys here, which we left a little loose earlier. Because now we know that everything is nice and square, so we can tighten this down. I am seriously impressed with the build quality and assembly of this machine. It's really good. Really easy. If you think this is hard, oh man, this is really easy. Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm square one more time after tightening down all my screws with my lovely speed square. Am I square? Looks square to me. This one needs a little adjusting. Alright guys, so we're done with the Z-lead screws, gantry frame. It's time to put the hot end on. Let's do this. Time to put the hot end on. Before that, I'm gonna level this X gantry just to see. This is super easy. I mean, you got dual Z screws and you have the ruler, so you don't need to do the cans thingy to make sure it's level with the bed. But you can use the cans if you can. Okay. I'm gonna level it like this. If you think it's high or low on one side, just move the couplers on that side to move it at the right height. But doing it visually like this is perfectly acceptable. Yeah, I think you got it pretty square. Alright. Now we're gonna install the hot end. Just gonna move it down a little bit. Alright. Time to install the hot end. So looks like we need 2 screws. These small ones. These small ones. Right, the ones that came in your screw bag, installed screws. So let's screw them. Screw, screw, you. Hot end. Screw you. I'm gonna do this side first because we have BL touch on the other side. Do not let go of the hot end. If it slips, then you might end up cracking or doing nozzle damage. Do not over tighten it because we gotta do the other side. Oh, my dog here. Okay. Make sure to move these wires and cables right in that slot inside so you're not kinking them. And you want to make sure that the hot end is nice and tight. You do not want these screws to be loose. Make sure the fans are nice and tight. These are fine, you don't need to worry about them as much. But I want to make sure that my BL touch is secured. Yeah. Airy sensor. Right. Here's our hot end in place. Let's make sure our feeder unit is also nice and tight and everything is secure. I feel the nice tension. They use a really nice yellow spring. These are really good. This is good quality stuff. And I don't feel this arm breaking either, even though it looks like ABS injection molded. It's very well made, relatively speaking. People break these all the time on their Ender machines, Ender 3s. So just want to make sure that these are tight. Yep, these are all nice and tight. I'm seeing that they're a little close to each other. We'll tune that tension later. If I see the filament grinding, then I'm gonna make sure that the gap between the gear, feeder gear, and the pulley is not too tight, because that's just gonna, the gears are gonna bite on it, on the filament. Just make sure this grub screw, this little grub screw, I'm just gonna see if I can zoom in on it. This little tiny grub screw here, make sure this is tight. I don't think they have an Allen key, Allen wrench that fits that, so I have one. And I'm just gonna use that to make sure that it's nice and tight. Yep. that's good. Looking at the Z lead screws, the brass owners, I can clearly see that these need lubrication. These will need some lube for sure, otherwise they're gonna make these grinding noises. So we just did our hot end. Now we're gonna move on to wiring. All right, let's do the wiring part. It's super easy. Everyone makes it really good. Everything is labeled. There you have for X Gantry, the hot end. Right here, X Gantry, X stepper motor. This is for the extruder motor, this motor right here. And this is for your everything else, real touch, heating bed and everything. So let's just get this started. So I'm just gonna go and get this bigger one in first, because it's at a little bit of an awkward angle here. I don't know, you guys probably can't see this one, but it's right here, right next to the extruder motor. It's a little bit hard to see down there. Not sure if I'm putting it in right. Okay, I think I see it. Just gotta line it up properly. There we go. I think I got it in. And here's our X on this side. X is in. Here's our Y. Nope, not Y, extruder. There it goes in. Guys, this is super easy. This is just so easy. There are no Z limit switches because it's TNC 2209s. It's sensorless homing, so you don't have to fidget with that. So you don't have to connect those limit switches and blah blah blah. Adjust the height, auto homing stuff. It is just so easy. It is so nice and clean. Looks gorgeous. Very well packaged. I'm digging this. I'm digging this very much. Alright guys, what I just noticed was I had not so smooth movement of the hot end on the white X rail. So I had to loosen up a little bit of these wheels, especially the bottom one over here, and you can do that like this. Okay, and I basically just made sure that there is no wobble, but at the same time there is no hesitation on the X moving, because earlier it was just getting stuck like this. So I just loosened them up a little bit, and this bottom one especially was too tight. Loosen it out a little bit, and it's moving nice now. And I'm gonna tighten down this X belt as well now, because I think it's a little loose. And how you do that is like this. Same fundamental. You see these two screws here? We're gonna loosen these up and then pull this bracket back a little bit and then tighten them down. All right? You got these? These two right here. Okay, let's do this super quick. Again, you just want to feel that tightness and it's like gonna feel like a guitar string, like that little twang or twang or twang, whatever you like to call it. And then just tighten it down right there. Okay. Yeah, I like it. And make sure your Hotend moves nice and smooth, which it is. I like that as well. While I'm at it, I'm also going to make sure that all these rollers are equal tension, because you want to make sure that all these rollers are moving equally at the same tension. If one is tight and the others are a little loose, it's going to make the X gantry wobble a little. We don't want that, and I can already tell this wheel is a little more looser than this guy. You should be able to turn these a little bit, but they shouldn't be off the rail. But you should be able to turn them a little bit like that with relative ease without moving the gantries. And this one is super tight on the other side. I don't know if you can see the other side. There we go. And the top one is super tight. The bottom one is loose. So we gotta make sure that these are properly, or rather equally tensioned. I can't change this guy. I don't have access to this one, apparently, but this one looks fine to me. I have access to this guy and access to this guy. So I think I'm gonna make this guy a little loose. Just enough so you can just move them with your fingers with relative ease, but not too loose. Okay, this one is a little loose for my comfort, so this one is good. So I'm just going to tighten this one down. There you go. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Knocking it off, loosen a little more. I think I can tighten this down. And be careful. Another awesome thing about ER20 is there's no eccentric nuts. It makes your life much easier. So you just gotta find a little bit of a right tension, and life is good. I'm just gonna try. I'm gonna make sure there is no wobble. There's a little wobble on this side, so I'm just going to tighten that down. Alright. Things are looking good. Okay, so we are done with the wiring and our checks for the rollers. It's time to install the filament holder now. We're gonna need these last two remaining screws for our filament holder. And it is so awesome. No T-nuts. I mean, the whole machine assembly, there are no T-nuts. Those T-nuts are not fun to work with. They actually have machined the holes right here somewhere. I thought I saw him right here somewhere to hold the filament holder. It's so cool. Let's do this. Oh, it's on this side. Interesting. Okay. I don't know if this is a great idea to have the filament holder so far out and go at that angle into the feeder. I'm a bit surprised by this design decision, but we're just gonna roll with it for now. This should really be above the feeder unit, not on the other side, because this is going to create a really acute angle for the filament to feed into the, I don't know. So far this is the first thing that I don't like, everyone. This is a weird design decision. Really weird. I don't know. Maybe I'm just missing something. I might find something interesting at the end of it. But we'll see. Let's get this party going. Alright, that was easy. Our filament holder is in place, even though I'm not happy with the way they chose where to put it. It should have been on this side, not on this side, because this is how the filament is going to feed into the feeder. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so we're done with the filament holder now. It's time to get the PSU. And it's nice and clean, and I do not see a voltage selector, which is very interesting. So I think this machine was specifically came with the PSU for USA, because I'm in USA. So I guess we're just gonna plug it in and we'll have to see. So I just reviewed everyone's assembly video, and it looks like in their video the filament holder is on the feeder unit side, above the feeder unit. So I think my machine has holes on the wrong side. They should have been on this side, like this. I'm gonna have to bring this up with everyone. That's interesting. And looks like they're just plugging it in. There is no voltage selector switch. It's plug it in, start it up, and good to go. So that's what we're gonna do. All right. We are going to power up this baby now. Oops. Sorry about that. Just yanked the cable. It goes in. Turn it around. Plug it in. Oh, and before that, you gotta install this knob. Knob. Click. Peel this off. This useless skin. Oh, sticky. Really sticky. Off it goes. And moment of truth. Let's power this thing up. Okay. Looks good. Looking real good. Don't be intimidated when this BL touch makes this clickety clack noise when you turn it on. That's okay, that's perfectly normal. It's actually a good test that it's turning on. So, I am gonna call this assembly a success. Let's click through some options, because we want to make sure that everything moves. So we're gonna go to motion and move x-axis, y-axis, and everything, and see everything is moving. So all our wiring and connections are good. And then we're gonna move on to the next step, which is wet leveling and calibration of Z. Let's do this. Motion, move axis. I'm gonna move Y first a little bit. Let me just back it out a little bit so you guys can see. I am hoping that sensorless auto-homing works. Yep. Alright. Our Y works. Let's take a look at our X. Axis, X. It works. take a look at our Z. And it works. Yay! It's cool. All our wiring is good. Everything works. Before we do anything else, I forgot. We gotta install the bed. We gotta install the glass bed. Let's do that first. There's our glass bed. Here's our glass bed. There's our glass bed. There's our glass bed. It's a really nice looking glass bed. My only other printer so far is the Ender 3v2 which comes with a stock glass bed. My Tinker SB2 has a Magflex PEI bed, which is really cool also. And I have JG Maker Artist D IDEX coming soon, which I believe also has a magnetic bed. And then I have a Kaibu Tycoon coming in February, which I believe is a glass bed, and it's a fantastic machine. They're both fantastic machines. All my machines are really good. Some are just more work than others. But they're all really good. They're all really capable machines. Alright, this is some packaging. Okay, here it goes. This is a very nice looking bed. Very nice looking bed. And I believe it goes on like this. Before that, I'm gonna make sure there is no debris on our aluminum heating plate. Gotta make sure it's nice and clean. And the back side of the glass is also clean. We are gonna use these really cool bed clips to hold the bed. Just be careful how you position these clips, because we don't know yet where the BL Touch is gonna ping in Autohome. So I'm just gonna... This is how it works. So cool. Just loosen it up. Tighten it down. Excellent. Make sure your bed is nice and square. You're going to do the back corner first, and second. Looks good. Guys, this is real time, so if you feel like skipping to the next steps, just feel free. Okay? Nobody's judging. There we go. That should do it. I'm actually gonna move this to the corner a little bit. I like symmetry. There we go. Looking good. Looking very good. We're just gonna quickly check and preheat the nozzle in the bed using preheat PLA and see everything is working fine. And we can monitor the progress here. This is the bed heat. It's gonna go to 60 degrees, it says, and this is the nozzle here. It's gonna go to 200, it says, and it's going up. So, looks like we are in business. And then in the meantime, we can do our other checks. This printer is really quiet. I can barely hear anything going while the bed heats. Yeah, we can put in the SD card. Here's the micro SD card. Here's a micro SD card. And it is a class 10, 8 gigabytes. Wow. This is much better than all the cheap SD cards you usually get with other machines. I'm impressed. Very nice. And this is gonna go here. Give it a little push, nice and flush. It's in. And what's on our SD card? Oh, no media. It's reading it now. We got some test codes, user manual, USB drivers, firmware, Cura profile, assembly guide. Cool. We're gonna do look at it later. So our bed's heated, our nozzle's heated. It's already oozing that little black. You can see it. It's oozing some black filament already. That's what they use for their testing. Zoom already. Zoom. Focus. There we go. There we go. There we go. So yeah, they test their machines before they ship them. Alright folks, so that concludes our assembly, and let's move on to the bed level and calibrate Z, and then we're ready to print. Hey, let's try auto-homing this thing. Motion, auto-home. Let's see if this works. Finger on the reset button. Yeah, I can hear the Z-rods. They need lubrication. Okay. Success. Looking nice. That worked. So I just lubed both the Z-lead screws with a little bit of the super lube. Multi-use synthetic oil because I don't have the dry PTFE one. I'm just gonna move the Z up and down a couple of times using this LCD. I just took it to 200. I'm going to bring it back to 0 now. And we're just going to do this for a couple of cycles. As you can see that you can't hear the grinding sounds anymore. So that's lubrication at work. So make sure you lube them. My Tinker S came with good lubrication. There was none on here. So do that.